Put cat ears on a girl and you get 4.4 million damage for fun. Hello internet, and today we'll be bringing this feline to all of the end games and all of her relevant teams so you can know how she performs and hopefully it helps you decide if you want to get her. Disclaimer though, everything is here from the creator experience server so things are subject to change. The final thing to know before we start is that Cypher can pretty much be used in any teams with any DPS except maybe in break teams, considering her all benefiting traits which straight up says damage received by enemies are increased by 40%. Acheron likes that, same with Castorice or even Wind and Hay. Hence, I'll only mainly showcase the more popular and relevant teams, but it should prove to be informative for you too. With that said, let's start by taking a look at Cypher's stats. You want at least 170 speed to activate her trace, which grants her 50% crit rate. To maximize her damage, aim for 50% crit rate from relics and some crit damage to boot. But honestly, her damage mostly comes from the recorded true damage, so you only really want the high speed. To make things easier, her Lightcone gets her 18% speed bonus and allows her to land defense reduction debuffs whenever she attacks, given if she's 170 speed or above. This effect allows her basic to also plant a debuff, making her perfect for Acheron to gain her ultimate. Her sets here are just speed sets to get to the 170 mark, and her planar set can be anything that helps your team. The rope here is the only interesting part. I'm using energy regen, but you'll see quite some people recommend attack rope. Well, I'll be testing both later, but to really make a quick conclusion, it's not that big of a difference. Now that you're all caught up, let's understand how she works. Upon entering battle, Cypher will inflict this patron state, which is this coin symbol thingy. If your ally attacks this enemy, Cypher will follow up with a hit. This can only happen once per turn. She'll also record 12% of any damage dealt by allies on this enemy. Do note though, Cypher will not record overflow damage, meaning if your ally deals 5 million damage to a 1 HP enemy, she'll only record 1 HP worth of damage. The fun part is that this recording thing does not have a limit, so you can't just keep charging it by attacking the enemies inflicted with patron. Cypher's ultimate allows her to turn this charge into true damage. She attacks one enemy first with a quarter of the true damage, then she attacks the same target along with 2 adjacent ones with the rest of the true damage. This means your damage will be quite scattered against multiple enemies. Her skill allows her to reapply patron on whoever she targets, and she also gains 30% attack buff while weakening enemies damage by 10%. However, note that majority of her damage is just from the ultimate's true damage conversion anyway, so there's not a need to hyper focus on getting her own direct damage up, though it is still good. With that said, let's jump into the showcase now. We'll start things off with the team that makes the most sense, which is Cypher and Acheron. We'll start the test with Cypher on the attack rope first, and for the rest of the showcase, it will be on an ERR rope. The gameplay is quite easy. We are just gonna focus on the enemy with the patron state and Acheron's flower too. I really should have attacked with Cypher first to get her Lightcone's death shred, but well, it's no biggie. As you can see, from 500k damage through Acheron, Cypher is able to record 134k damage. This means her ultimate will now do that amount as true damage. Seeing that I don't have much skill points, I opted for using her basic attack, and you'll notice her own direct damage really isn't too high, though it's still solid. From there, you're just playing a normal Acheron team, racking up debuffs, and with Cypher here, I used the skill to get her ultimate ready. And now we can dump it down. After recording a lot of damage from Acheron, it ended up being 430k damage converted. This is actually really helpful for Acheron, especially when she struggles with cleaning up like 10% HP elites. I mean, she can do it, but she'd overkill it, right? So having Cypher to clean up there was quite nice. And from there, Cypher is able to help Acheron gain a bunch of stacks with her follow-up and her basics through her Lightcone. You know, every attack she does with a Lightcone, she get a defense shred debuff on. All of that counts towards Acheron's ultimate, and hence why they are so perfect for each other. In no time, we do get Acheron's ult again. We did put the patron on the boss, so that's a bunch of damage recorded for Cypher and a bunch of damage dealt through Acheron anyway. The damage output of Acheron herself reaches 1 million at times thanks to Cypher's damage buffs and death shreds, and this is higher than if you would use a Pela, which is what was common before. And now with 500k damage recorded, we dump in Cypher's ult. You'll notice that we are not able to just finish the boss, and that's mainly because of all the mobs scattering your damage output. So it's not really 500k on the boss itself, it's scattered a lot, right? But well, it's not even that bad since beating the mobs will inflict the boss with vulnerability. Extra damage on the boss itself is certainly a plus too. And with the final ultimate, we're just shy of the 2 cycle clear, stepping 1 action into the 3rd cycle. It can definitely be a 2 cycle for sure. Now then, if we change the attack rope away for ERR though, Cypher's own direct damage is certainly lower. But as I mentioned, her own damage is not too high anyway, so in the end, both options are fine. I personally chose to stick with the ER rope only to give myself more options with Cypher's ultimate, since higher ult uptime means you get to choose when to use it more, right? In this run, we're actually able to get a 2-cycle clear, but only by 1 action. So yeah, as I mentioned, the difference is very negligible. Pick whichever rope that you have the best substats of and you'll be fine. If you're wondering as well, swap out Cypher for Pela. I managed to clear this in 3 cycles. It's at the end of that cycle too, so having Cypher is definitely faster. You'll notice Pela simply doesn't have that extra damage that Cypher gives with her ult, which can make a difference across the whole fight. Plus, the highest damage I've reached with Pela in the team was 976k, while with Cypher, I got to 1.1 million. So yep, it's quite convincing to say Cypher is the better replacement for Pela in the Acheron team. If you're a hard Acheron main, you want to grab her. But if you're just trying to beat stuff though, a Pela works fine. And with that, let's move on to the next team that makes the most sense, which will be the Cypher and Feixiao setup. We're fighting Hule, which should be the best enemy for Feixiao here. With this setup, you'll get some cool combos of Feixiao using her skill, training into Cypher's fallout, back to Feixiao's extra skill, all for robbing and venturing to benefit off it too. Cypher putting on the patron state and recording Feixiao's high ult damage makes this team sync perfectly. Not to mention having all the defense reduction from Cypher's Lightcone and her own traits, getting the enemy 40% more damage taken, it all maximizes Feixiao's damage pretty well. And honestly, there's not much difference in playing this team than with Acheron. Use Cypher's skill if you have a surplus, but otherwise, I find it easy to just use her basic and treat her as a skill point generator. That is all you really have to do to inflict all the defense reduction through a Lightcone, and her 40% damage taken increase is activated permanently, with the only criteria being Cypher needs to be on the battlefield anyway. So just by spamming basics, you have all of her benefits. And yeah, rinse and repeat, get your Cypher and Feixiao to flop each other constantly, dump the recorded damage from Cypher onto enemies, and beat the stage in 2 cycles. That's basically what happened, and it's just so straightforward and simple. Now the real question is, how does this compare to using Topax instead in this team, right? Well, you're in the right place because I tested that as well. To just start with a conclusion, this run with Topax took 3 cycles. However, Topax is able to help Feixiao reach 592,000 damage at the highest with 8 ults used, while Cypher helped Feixiao reach 489k damage at the highest with 7 ults used. The big difference here is how Cypher has more burst damage than Topax with the true damage conversion. Plus with this boss specifically, it doesn't spawn too many mobs, so Cypher's true damage was able to go on the boss a lot. Time it well and you'll be able to finish off the boss with Cypher's ult that deals 300k burst damage, or drop the boss to just enough where Feixiao can finish it without needing an extra ultimate. In the end, the difference is not too big, where I only took a few more actions with the Topax team. But it's interesting to see Cypher doing this well even on a Feixiao team though. With that out the way, let's move on to the next team, where it's mainly to show you how versatile Cypher can be. We got Cypher replacing any supporter in your team. This is what I think Hoyo designed Cypher to be anyway, which is so that you can use her to replace, say, RMC if you want to use her in both your teams. So here we replace RMC with Cypher. Pretty much functions the same as anywhere else. Use her basic if you need skill points, use her skill if you have any surplus. Her damage buffs for the team will all be activated just by doing so anyway. With Castorice as the main DPS, Cypher's recorded damage gets up really fast. However, because she doesn't have much to do with HP change, it's not quite ideal, but her damage buffs itself are all still great for Castorice. In the end, Castorice also kind of just ruined everything since she herself does that much damage. In fact, Cypher couldn't even keep up with her. Like, Castorice already dealt so much damage before Cypher even got her ult that we reached nearly 800 charge on Cypher, which does 800k damage if you're wondering. Absolutely insane, dude. We're able to finish it in 1 cycle, and you would think this might just be the best Castorice team, but honestly, using RMC here is still slightly better with her ability to heal Mem to charge Castorice's ultimate. RMC giving Castorice's true damage as well is quite similar to Cypher's true damage output, so while we're missing a lot of damage comparing RMC to Cypher, Castorice's own true damage triggered by RMC covers for that. In the end, we got a 1 cycle clear, but it is a few action faster than Cypher, so yep, it seems Cypher's more like a versatile replacement that can match any other supports while being exceptional in an Acheron team. Oh well, why stop there? Let's take a look at the Herta with Cypher, huh? This team doesn't really make much sense since Tribi is by far the better option to charge up Herta's energy faster. But as I mentioned, Cypher is like a replacement supporter, opening up more options for you with your second team. She still functions well in this team anyway, where Cypher can still put up decent damage herself and consistently put on defense reduction and damage increase. The one thing that feels comfortable with this team though is certainly the skill point usage, where Cypher can spam her basic to generate generate enough skill points comfortably. That is one thing with the Herta where you need a lot of skill points, right? So having Cypher here does feel more safe. But usually with Tribby being quite cheap to use for skill points anyway, you wouldn't really want to not use Tribby instead if given the option. But yep, the run ended up being a 3-cycle clear. You'll likely get a 2-cycle clear with Tribby instead. Take out the Herta for Aglaea, you actually get too much skill points, which is great since you can now use more skills on Cypher and Huohuo. They are both beneficial, albeit not too crazy for Cypher, right? If you're able to use her skill, you can weaken the enemy's damage output and increase her own attack by 30%. As you can tell, her direct damage isn't too crazy anyway that you want to force yourself to spend skill points on her. Use her basic when you lack skill points and still reap the best benefits from Cypher, which is actually very nice with how easy it is to play. Now, given this boss is like one of the less suitable ones for Aglaea, we managed a 4-cycle clear. It's acceptable, right? But it won't be better than just using a Robin here. But hey, guess what? It did free up Robin to be used elsewhere, maybe with your Feixiao team, right? And with that, those are all the teams for MOC, and you can tell by the pattern though, Cypher can pretty much be used to replace any supporters for any of your teams since she's so generally usable. Well, except for break teams, I would say. I cannot showcase every Yanqing or Jingren out there, but I did pick the few that's interesting or relevant. I hope that helped you out. With that said, let's move on to pure fiction. And at this point, you should be able to imagine how it go. How good Cypher performs is completely based on the main damage dealer. Use her in an Acheron team here, which performs good in pure fiction anyway, you'll get a good clear. The upper hand to Cypher in this team specifically is that she can very easily clean up, so Acheron can save her ult for fresh or bulkier enemies. This is actually pretty big for Acheron teams since before, if you only had Acheron as the damage dealer, you had to kill anything that could be low or just some like squishy mobs as well by using her entire ultimate. And that can sometimes feel like a waste. Cypher being here alleviates that issue, making Acheron teams all the more consistent, genuinely pretty decent. So about Acheron for Feixiao though, obviously Feixiao doesn't perform well in pure fiction. It does better than having Topax in this setup though, considering Cypher has a multi-target ultimate. But well, as I mentioned, she's only as good as the team you bring her in. Feixiao is not that great in pure fiction, so I managed to get a 24k point clear, which is not even that bad if you think about it. But then again, this is not the main reason why you want to go all in and pull her though, in my opinion. And you know what, man? Let's just have some fun now. Swap out Feixiao for Castorice. You kind of just get Castorice to smash your class as usual. You just one-shot stuff for fun anyway. That Cypher really did not have to do anything. In fact, the whole point of me testing this is because I got curious. So I held Cypher's ultimate for the whole clear until the last moment just to see how much damage I'd do with like 3.5 million damage recorded. And yeah, as you can imagine, it looked insane. Like, this mechanic could be so fun, but I do think it's still limited since no enemies can survive that long for it to record that much damage after all. But yeah, 40k points, yeah, that's not an issue. Pretty much just Castorice though. Now then, we'll just move on to Apocalyptic Shadow. I think it's pretty clear that Cypher can just replace any other supports. She does her own thing, with your main DPS deciding if the clear would be smooth or not. Use her with Himiko and normal Herta in this setup. If you can break the enemy, well, that team's still gonna like rock shop in pure fiction. But that aside, let's just focus on Apocalyptic Shadow for now. We'll just test Acheron and Feixiao since these two are the main teams that Cypher can really be unique and shine in. But yep, functionally it's all the same as you watched before. Acheron deals insane damage, Cypher records insane damage while putting on all the debuffs constantly. I really just do the same thing, so I won't show every step. The run ended up being a 3.6k point clear. More than enough for a max star clear, right? So about Acheron for Feixiao, you'd be not surprised to hear the same thing. Honestly, Cypher just has really similar properties as Topax anyway. She attacks a lot for Feixiao to ult, she boosts Feixiao's damage output, she deals damage herself too. The buff in Apocalyptic Shadow allows Feixiao to basically get 2 ults if you break the boss, so it got even easier. The run ended up being almost identical for clear points, so yeah, more than good enough for especially an older character like Feixiao. And that is all for the Cypher teams in all of the endgames. To conclude, she is the best in Acheron's team, allowing it to reach a higher ceiling. She's very good in Feixiao's team, enough to even match Topax. She's also great in any other team to replace their support if you really need to use them elsewhere. But then to answer the question, should you really pull Cypher though? I heavily suggest waiting until the next special program, which should contain info on the collab characters or even the buffs. That is where I think there's a likely chance the whole meta might turn on its tail again. You might want to reconsider who to pull for. But as a standalone character, not thinking about the future though, she is quite solid. Like, she's just a really usable support that if you're missing anyone in a team, you can slap her in. Or if you want to use the same support in 2 teams, slap her in one of the teams to replace the other. You'll likely get you the 3-star clear and you'll have another team with their perfect supports without spreading yourself thin. However, I'll have to say, if you're just trying to clear stuff for 3-star, Using a normal Pela and an Acheron team will still work fine. You won't find yourself not being able to clear stuff just because you don't own a Cypher. And that is all I have for Cypher, and I hope that helped you out. I'll be posting more stuff for her as well, so I hope to see you around, and that is all. Take care.